Dan with Guardian Mold Prevent here. We're going to take a look at an attic space in Franklin Park, Illinois. I do apologize that the photo here is a little bit dark and some of the photos are not the greatest, but you'll get the gist of what's going on. As you can see, we're looking at the northern exposure of a roof. There is some mold staining on the plank board roofing. I'm not sure that you can tell, but there is some mold growth on the rafters. It's very common on the northern exposure of the roof because it doesn't see any sunlight, it doesn't get warmed up, and so when there is condensation, it will stay there all day. Now we're looking here at the southern exposure of the roof. On the southern exposure, you can see that there's no mold growth. It's very clean, and that's basically because when the deficiencies that we'll look at here in a minute start to get the warm air in the attic, you've got ice-cold roofing members in the winter, you reach dew point, you condensate, and you get mold growth. The southern exposure, the eastern exposure, and the western exposures of the roof all get sun during the day, and so it's warmed up and the moisture evaporates. Now we're looking down into the soffit portion of the attic space where the joist and the rafters come together, and you can see that the insulation has been blown right out. It's actually blocking the soffit space. There's no place for cold air to get in and to come up and allow the attic to be conditioned by the outdoor environment. So what's happening is the warm air is being trapped in the attic. It's not being replaced by cold air from a lower supply or from the soffit ventilation, and it's actually getting trapped in the attic space. Now we're looking here at the actual switch for the power attic fan, and by the way, it's the only upper ventilation that is in this attic. You can see that the homeowner has the humidistat level set at 80%. That should be set much lower. But the thing that I want to make note of here is that having the power attic fan in the upper portion of the roof would be great if the lower portion of the roof was open, and so when that fan kicks on, it would actually draw cold air up through the soffits, force the warm air out through the upper portions of the roof, and as long as the air temperature and the wood temperature are relatively close, we won't condensate. But as you can see in this picture, we've got can lights in the attic, and we've got insulation that's actually been pulled away from the can lights where you can see the top side of the drywall. So when that power attic fan actually kicks on, what's happening is it's drawing air from the path of least resistance, which in this attic happens to be the areas where the can lights are, the light fixtures, the electrical fixtures in the ceiling, because the warm air can get up through there with the actual draw from the fan, and it's actually working against the conditions in this attic space. As you can see in this picture, even the areas that have insulation are not insulated properly. The insulation is actually below the level of the ceiling joist in the attic. So everything in conjunction in this particular attic is actually working against the conditions. No lower ventilation. You've got a power attic fan that's drawing air from the path of least resistance. We've got poor insulation. We've got can lights that are allowing for warm air to get up into the attic space, and it's essentially just a recipe for disaster.